What's up guys, and welcome to the first Q&A video. Q&A means questions and answers. This means we are answering your questions about English. Just recently we put out a story on Instagram asking you for your questions about English, and we got hundreds of questions. So in today's video we answer some of those questions. If you like this kind of video, please comment down below and let us know, and we will make more of these Q&A videos. Also, if you have a question about English, please comment that down below as well, and we will try to answer all of your questions in the next videos. Okay, let's look at the first question for today. Question number 1. Sam, he said, I want to speak English. How I seek it. So I think this question is just asking, how do I learn English? Now, to learn English, you first need to learn the basics. The basics of English are pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. You need to learn pronunciation because if you can't make the sounds of English, how can you communicate to native speakers so that they understand you? You probably can't, right? Just recently we put out an English pronunciation course which will teach you how to make every sound of English like a native speaker. And you can check out the link in the description below. So after you've learned pronunciation, you should learn vocabulary. That means really understand the meaning of basic words in English. Basic words like and, basic words like or. You need to really understand these words, and then when you're communicating with native speakers, you won't have any problems in being understood, and you won't have any problems in understanding what a native speaker is saying to you. After you've learned pronunciation and you've learned basic vocabulary, now you can start making some sentences. And to make sentences, you need to understand grammar, because grammar is what helps us to give meaning to our sentences. You should learn basic tenses in English like past perfect, present simple, future continuous. And after you learn and really understand these tenses and why we use these tenses, then again you can communicate to native speakers and you will understand what native speakers are saying to you. You won't have to guess the meaning of sentences. You will understand what the person is saying to you. You will know if it happened one time or many times. You will know if it's happening now. You will know if the person is talking about the past, the present, or the future. After you've learned the basics of English, then you can start learning some intermediate and some advanced English. You can learn things like idioms. You can learn things like slang words. But if you try and learn these things first, this will be a big problem because firstly, you haven't learned English pronunciation. Secondly, you don't understand basic English vocabulary. And thirdly, you don't understand basic English grammar. So learn the basics first and then move on to intermediate and advanced English. Question number 2. Mohammed, he says, how to improve pronunciation? Well, the first thing you want to do if you're looking to improve your pronunciation is to learn every sound of English. All words in English are made up of one sound or more than one sound. So if you know how to pronounce the sounds of English, how to make the sounds of English, you can pronounce every word correctly. After you've learned how to pronounce every sound in the English language, you can start learning more intermediate and advanced pronunciation skills, like connected speech. The best way to do this is to listen to native speakers and copy them. For example, look at this phrase here. It's pronounced, what are you doing, right? Yes, that's right, but when a native speaker says this phrase really quickly, he will say, what are you doing? what are you doing? You can see how all of the words, they come together. We don't say, what are you doing? We join them all together and we say, what are you doing? So learn to make all of the sounds of English first and then move on to more intermediate and advanced pronunciation. Question number 3. Stubborn Reet, he says, how to improve vocab. I think the best way to improve your vocabulary in English is to listen to native speakers. You will see which words they use and then you can copy them. And you will also see, which is actually more important, what words they don't use. Because sometimes when we're learning a language, we take the words from our language, translate them into English, and then use them. But this may make your English sound a little bit weird because some words from your language might not be used in English. The second best way to learn vocabulary is by reading books. This is a great way to learn because it's very relaxing. You don't have to worry about speaking to a native speaker. You don't have to worry about listening. You can just sit there and read your book in your own time at your own pace. But there's one problem with learning vocabulary from reading books, and that is some of the words and phrases in books may be a little bit formal and not really used in day-to-day life. So just be careful. When you're learning vocabulary from books, the words and phrases might be a little bit formal. Question number 4 comes from Naoman Art, and he says, the accent you use is British or American. I am from Australia and I definitely do not use an American accent. My accent is a bit of a mix between an Australian accent and a British accent. Question number 5 comes from Kin. She says, what is the difference between responsibility and accountability? This is a really good question because these words are similar, but they are different. Responsibility normally talks about when you're actually doing a task, when you're actually doing something. For example, you have a responsibility to do the best that you can. This is talking about actually doing something. It means you have a duty when you're doing that thing to do the best that you can. The word accountability normally talks about what happens after a situation is finished. For example, after you finish your task, you have to take ownership for the results. That means if something bad happens, it's your fault. If something good happens, it's your fault. So accountability means you need to take ownership for what happens after the task has finished. Question number 6 comes from Shan and says, how do native English use phrasal verbs in different ways? Phrasal verbs are not difficult if you understand how to use them. Phrasal verbs are made up of a verb and an adverb, or they can be made up by using a verb and a preposition. Phrasal verbs need to be used in the same way as normal verbs. That means sometimes you'll have to change the tense of a verb. For example, a common phrasal verb is turn up. An example sentence with this phrasal verb could be, he turned up the music. You can see here that we changed turn to turned, because this sentence is talking about the past. Now, when using a phrasal verb with a verb and an adverb, the object can be between the verb and the adverb. For example, turn the music up. Sometimes it is after the phrasal verb. For example, turn up the music. Both are correct. But if the object is a pronoun like him or her, the pronoun must go between the verb and the adverb. For example, she took it off. We cannot say she took off it. Now, when using a phrasal verb with a verb and a preposition, the object must go after the preposition. For example, they look after my children. We can't say they look my children after. Question number 7 from Denise and says how to use both. Both means two people or two things. So if you ever hear the word both, you know it's talking about two people or two things. For example, I could say, John and Paul are both my friends. This means I'm talking about two people, John and Paul. Another example could be, would you like milk, sugar, or both? So if you say both, that means you want two things. You want the milk and you want the sugar. Question number 8 comes from Ab Visual Perspective and says, what is the correct form for the verb used with a noun without plural form? The information is or are. Uncountable nouns are considered singular. That means if you use an uncountable noun, you normally need to use is, because is a singular verb. We use it with singular subjects. So the example in the question, the information is or the information are, we should say the information is. Another example could be, the furniture in this house is very beautiful. Furniture is uncountable, so we use is. But if you put something before the uncountable noun, which is plural, then you should change is to are. For example, if you say the 5 sets of information, then after that we would need to use are. For example, the 5 sets of information are over there. We use are because 5 sets is plural. It's more than one. Question number 9 comes from Inst Shab and he says, what's the easiest way to speak English fluently? Speaking English fluently is something that takes time and practice, but it is possible. Many people in this world have learned to speak English fluently, so that means you can too. From my experience of teaching languages and learning languages, the best way to become fluent in a language is by first learning the basics. The basics of English are pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. If you can't make the sounds of English, how can you speak in English? If you don't know any words in English, how can you make sentences? If you don't know any grammar in English, how can you understand the meaning of sentences in English? After you have learned these 3 things, you can immerse yourself in English content that is made for native speakers. You can watch, listen, and then copy what you hear. This will help you to start sounding like a native speaker yourself. But for example, if you try and learn idioms and slang in English before you understand pronunciation, this is going to make learning English very hard for you because you'll always be thinking about your pronunciation. So, in summary, learn the basics first and then start learning more intermediate and advanced English. Question number 10 comes from Jules and says, what's the difference between land and country? The word land means part of the earth, the surface of the earth, which is not covered in water. So for example, right now I am on land because I am not on water. But in some situations, land can also mean country. For example, he wants to be the best boxer in the land. This means he wants to be the best boxer in the country. Normally, the word land isn't used like this, but it's always good to know. Now, the word country means a certain part of land which has one government, one army, one police force, and other things like that. For example, my country is Australia. Some other examples of countries could be Canada, China, and Brazil. Then you can learn some intermediate. Question number 4. 6 comes from shun, and it